Greetings once again, heroes and villains out there. Duuz-Diz-Din, back again with another chapter of My Hero Academia, where previously, Deku inside the mind of Tomura Shigaraki witnesses the day that his decay started to manifest when he accidentally killed his dog Mon. But Deku, in a younger form, intervened before he could do so to his sister Hana. As Deku and Tomura grapple, Tomura basically opens up that he is a villain, that there is no other path for him after everything that had happened. But Deku is determined to hold on no matter what, even though his arms start to crumble from Tomura's power. But Tomura ultimately gives in. But Tomura still has the determination to be a hero for villains, thinking about the League of Villains, which paints it in the light that a lot of what he had done was also to live up to what the League of Villains had painted him as being: a leader, someone to follow, someone to help make what they wanted a reality. But suddenly there's a flood of memory of Tomura's dad Kotaro talking with a familiar seeming man, talking about his son. Suddenly, a visage of All for One rises up beneath Deku and Tomura, swallowing Tomura and knocking Deku back. Leave it to the villain to reveal himself in the end, with All for One claiming that none of the choices in Tomura's life have ever been his own. Something that's been fairly obvious, but at the same time, that confirmation might be what's needed to not so much turn Tomura to the side of good, just turn Tomura's wrath to where it really needs to be. What'll happen next? Join me as I find out, won't you? Alright, a cover page that is obviously for the popularity poll. Naturally, Bakugo, as always, ended up as number 1. Number 2 is Deku. Number 3 is Shoto. Number 4 is, Dabi. Wow, the Shoto and Dabi stuff are really popular. Number 5 is Hawks. Cool. Number 6, Endeavor. Okay. Number 7 is Kirishima. Cool. Which is kind of unfortunate because Kirishima only did so much during this last fight. 8 is Ida. He had a pretty good moment too. 9 is Uraka Ochako, which I'm glad to see. And number 10, surprisingly enough, is Shoji. I'm glad that his story ended up resonating so much with people, because he never makes it this high. Good for him. Alright, let's jump into the chapter though. My Hero Academia, number 419. Design. All for One's grand design, as the landscape that used to make up Tomura Shigaraki's encrusted heart, as it were, reform in the sinister smiling visage of All for One, who looks at the falling little Izuku with no arms, saying, "Izuku Midori, how dare you destroy my one for all, my Yoichi? Yet Tenko's spiritual defeat here in his subconscious realm has allowed my own consciousness to claw back control." That's true. All for One kept wondering why he wasn't able to take over Tomura's body, and it was the same protection that Izuku helped to break through. That makes some degree of sense, considering what he was trying to do. Well dang, I didn't even think about that. As Tomura falls into the blackness, fading away, decaying away. The irony. All for One taunts him, saying, "Foolish Tenko Shimura, such a pure, credulous superego, a soft simpleton, unable to relinquish his cretinous life, benefiting from my guidance every step of the way, yet amounting to nothing." Tomura thinks to himself, "I don't get what you're talking about, master. I did choose. I made those decisions." But All for One continues to mock him, saying, "As I mentioned, not a single one of your choices has been your own. Yes, I had to make you think that, or else your strength of will would have been stunted. It was crucial to twist around your illusion of free will. Daigoro Banjo, aka Lariat, N Tuyata." That's an interesting name. Aka Smoke Eater. My encounters with those two informed me that stealing back one for all would require a strength of will greater than the wielder's own. While All Might had me on the defensive, I conducted my search for a soul who could someday grind away at his spiritual fortitude. It was a quest for that most powerful of emotions, one born from the heart's suppression of the id, that primordial earth. Yes, I sought a seedbed, fertile for hatred to grow. And the image of Kotaro, Tomura's dad, flashes through Tomura's mind, saying, what's there to think about? These days, heroes never show up to offer aid when they're actually needed. Children need siblings because nobody else will help them out. He even influenced the birth of Tomura? Was Kotaro really that easy to manipulate, though? What position did All For One have in the man's life that he could influence him so much? As Tomura listens, All For One says, the daughter, his firstborn, was already too far along, you see. I couldn't afford to be caught, so I never quite overstepped. Just a few nudges from the shadow. God, and you see it. After Tenko's birth, All For One patting the baby on the head with his parent, drinking with Kotaro. I encouraged your father's strict ways. I gave you something to inspire to, and I bided my time. And you see, I can't make out what's happening in some of these. Tomura saving his friends, All For One talking to Tomura's friends, maybe talking about playing hero, or maybe they ran off, and then All For One, with a different face, meets a young Tomura, saying, hello there, you must be Mr. Shimura's son, no? This road's a dangerous one with all the traffic. Why don't you take my hand? And it was in that instant you see it, the transfer of the Dehei quirk. All For One tells him, it was sourced from a quirk at one of the good doctor's facility. We stripped away half of it, the ability to reverse its effects, leave an incomplete, subpar copy, engineered solely to promote destruction. So it was a customized ability. What's the full ability then? So the ability isn't even technically decay. It's half of something else? What is it half of? All For One tells Tomura, the very quirk I granted you. Tomura starts to scratch at his neck in a panic, heavily breathing, hyperventilating. He says, you mean? All For One says, indeed. The tragedy, the ordeals, the rejection, the validation, all granted by me. And Tomura, he breaks apart. He shatters as All For One mocks him, saying, all that you are, you speak of your unwavering heart? Nonsense. For shame. Be gone from my body. He's doing this to break down Tomura's will, so he can have control. All For One thinks, his spirit is now mine to delete. I was saving this last resort until after he'd stolen one for all. But that's no longer in the cards. And Deku, having been here for all of this, shouts out for All For One. And in the real world, a blast goes off, where Deku and Tomura were clashing last. And when the smoke clears, a voice rings out, Yoichi is gone. And from the ashes, a very withered-looking Tomura, the body of Tomura, steps forward, saying, my intermediate goal is foiled. Oh, a lingering note. And a hand forms over the mouth of whoever this is now. All For One, I have to assume, saying, be silent. All For One looks at his arm, noting the spiritual damage has taken its toll on the flesh. Decay. His rage and hatred are no more. All For One calls out, are you dead yet, boy? All For One thinks, the vessel I spent years searching for and cultivating is ruined, as is my brother. All that remains is, to be done with it, right? Deku is collapsed on the ground. He still weakly calls out, For One. Oh, okay. He put the hand over the mouth because some part of Shigaraki was still screaming in the background. Jeez, that's kinda messed up. All For One says, I'll move on to my hollow, immaterial final goal. That is to say, the world. Deku tries to rise up, saying, I won't let you, but he falls forward. Oh, gee, Jesus. So what happened in the other world happened here. His arms are gone. Holy crap. All For One note, neither of us emerged unscathed, I see. And as Deku struggles, he thinks about the hand that he lost. The hand that was finally able to hold on to Bakugo's. The hand he tried to save, but Deku, tears welling up in his eyes, still thinks, not done yet, not yet. All For One walks forward slowly, saying, loss engenders strength. That's a narrative trope I intend to establish. Such a pitiful end was inevitable for a child with nothing to lose in the first place. All for One reaches out his hand. What? As Sero comes in, binding All for One? What? What? Holy crap! Midoriya thinks Sarah, and All for One thinks trivial, negligible enough that Midoriya's presence obscured the warning. Sarah calls out for Midoriya as he tries to pull All for One back, saying, "Need some saving, pal?" As Tailman and Sugarman come in ready to strike, Ojiro using Tornado Tail Dance, Sato using Sugar Knuckle, managing to knock All for One away. Deku calls out, "Sarah, Ojiro, Sato, you're all still alive." And from a portal that has Kurogiri's darkness, but a little bit of whiteness to it, out steps Aizawa, saying, "Midoriya, sorry for the delay. I was wondering when we were finally gonna find out what happened to them." What happened? Okay, I had to double check because that panel where he's talking about, oh, we took another quirk and reworked it and yada yada yada. I'm just like, why does that scene look familiar? What do I know that scene of this little child in some daycare is? It's Overhaul, mother! It's a copy of, the irony of that. Decay is half of Overhaul's ability without the ability to restore. Holy crap. Now, I say it again, this was so obvious. The moment we got Tomura's backstory, I'm like, oh no, this feels like a situation that All for One would engineer for maximum, manipulation. For a moment we got that backstory. I don't know if I said it in those videos. I'm not willing to go back and watch those old videos. But I feel like I said it. Or at least I was thinking it for the longest while. It was interesting we already had Banjo's name, but did we have En's hero name? Smoke Eater, huh? Which doesn't really make sense because he spews smoke, he doesn't eat it. Now I feel like some people will be like, this takes away from Shigaraki, yada yada yada, blah blah blah. I'm like, look guys, I don't know what to tell you on that one. I get where you're coming from. It would have been, I get it, probably would have been cooler if Shigaraki had made these choices by himself. But Deku's want to redeem Shigaraki in the face of all that would make him feel even more naive. And that whole scared little boy calling out is just like, no, this only really works if ultimately Tomura has been manipulated. But at the same time, much like a lot of the other villains, there should still be repercussions for what they did. I don't think Tomura's soul is destroyed. I think what might actually end up happening is his wrath is directed to All for One, and he does what he can in order to make sure that All for One is destroyed in the end. But I'm kind of glad for this, because I'm like, there's no way that All for One, with the way he went out, I'm like, is that really the way he should go out? I guess it's fine. But now that he's back, I'm like, yes. And it makes so much sense that all along, All for One was really trying to use him. I don't know, I feel like some people sometimes want for so much more from these stories, even though it's, kind of obvious where they're going, but I've really enjoyed the ride of it all. And if this is the finale, I'm actually kind of fine with it. Just the revelation that Decay was actually just Overhaul, but reworked. I'm actually glad we got a little bit more out of that whole Overhaul the orphan situation, an orphanage run by Garaki. And then I kind of love the kind of reverse steps you get to understanding how that all worked out. Oh, I get how that all works. So the Decay quirk is gone and his brother is gone, right? That seems to be what they're saying. He doesn't have Decay anymore. And the fact that he had to create that mouth over the hand in order to shut Tomura up says that some part of Tomura is still in there, screaming, which that's a certain kind of messed up. Deku losing both of his arms though. I feel like that's an easy, Eri pops in, heals him, bada bing bada boom. Although I wonder, Eri healing him, would that give him back his abilities? That's hard to say. Maybe. Feel like a lot of people get mad about that. I feel like a lot of people are just like, no, you should leave with the arms. I talk about the fans way too much here, but it's hard to ignore sometimes. But I like the idea of even more of Deku's friends showing up to help out, do what they can, because that was already being done before. And I will always say it, I hate battles that just come down to two people. To really show how desperate we are to stop the final villain, it should be everyone taking this dude on, just throwing body after body after body after body at him. Because when you get to the end, it feels like a well-fought battle, at least from my perspective. And with everything that was done to take down All For One's main body, and then everything that's being done to take down this body, it's like, it feels like we're really earning this conclusion, at least from my perspective. So regardless of where we go from here on out, I'm actually okay with everything that's gone down. But let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. How do you feel about these revelations? The origin of decay, the revelations of All For One manipulating everything in Tomura's life. Again, it was very obvious, and I have no problem with that, but maybe you do. All For One now taking on the role of the final villain, the road to some sort of salvation being opened up for Shigaraki, which is what Deku wanted, the potential for Tomura to help out in stopping All For One. There's a lot of solid setup here. It's easy to see where it goes. I don't want any out of nowhere ass pulls, personally, because I've seen stuff like that. That's how you got the conclusion of Naruto. And honestly, I don't want that. I've come to terms with a lot of the stuff that happened towards the end of Naruto. But you already had a good direction. You already had a good final villain who was manipulating everything. Just let that be how it goes. You have a clear path to the finish line. Just take it. I say, to hell with anybody who says otherwise. Also, that warp gate. Did Shirakumo manage to gain control over Kurogiri? And to what capacity? Man, I kind of wanted that just to be a few chapters in and of itself. I'm actually kind of bummed that ended up being off screen. I wanted that emotional moment. It's a cool surprise, but still. But again, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Like, comment, subscribe if you enjoyed the ride. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, I've been Duuz-Diz-Din, and I hope to see you later. Take care. Bye-bye.